Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel. I want to welcome everybody who was watching me earlier on Jennifer Coffindaffer's Breaking the Case YouTube channel. I was on there with a couple of homicide detectives, also on there with uh, a couple of lawyers who have represented the defense. And we were talking about the Nancy Guthrie case. And tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to dive back into the maybe a little bit of an analysis of what was going on in that uh that video that we were doing, that live stream. It was quite a few of us, so opinions were a little bit limited just because of time constraints and also trying to get everybody to talk. And so interesting opinions and interesting thoughts that I wanted to break down and talk to you guys about. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You guys know what to do. And without further ado, let's bring in our guest to help break this down with me, Dr. Jamie Vona. How's it going, Doctor?
Hi, Daniel. Hi, everyone. We're both on twice today, so everyone's getting a double shot of both of us.
Hey, take it as it is. I didn't get a chance to stream the episode with Miss Coffindaffer and the panel before, and so this is the first time for me on my channel. So I hope everybody's here. Hope everybody's here and coming in, and let me know what you think about not having an intro. Trying to play with that. You know, I know sometimes it can be a little bit long. Those on the replay crew don't particularly like it. I see the comments.
Can't you just fast forward it though?
You can, but well, let's try it. And so I want to start off today's podcast because there was something that I wasn't really aware of. Yesterday, I was kind of really out of it. And it wasn't really until about maybe middle of today where I started to feel better. For those that don't know, I was involved in an accident. I was rear-ended at a red light, and I sustained like a concussion and like 7 herniated discs. Well, anyways, on Friday I had spinal injections for the discs, and I was not feeling good, and so I kind of missed this. And I want to talk about it because it was brought up in earlier's podcast, and it's newer information, and I want to get your thoughts on it as well. So the Guthrie family released another statement, and I believe it was from Savannah, stating that it's a possible member of this community that has information that they do not even realize is significant. We hope people search their memories, especially around key timelines of January 31st and in the early morning hours of February 1st, as well as the late evening of January 11th. So, you know, the 11th has come out before. Now, I mentioned in the podcast before, I was like, hey, what do we know about the 11th? It was a Saturday, Sunday morning, you know, late. I think it goes late evening, the 11th. Oh, that's what was the 11th? Was that a Saturday or a Sunday?
Let me look real quick.
I'll check it out. You know, what day was that? Let me ask.
It was a Sunday, I think.
It was a Sunday. So if it's the late evening of January 11th, then that's Sunday going into Monday. You know, to me, I initially what crossed my mind is Luke Daly, I believe his name is, and Carlos, the two guys that were searched. And I was like, well, maybe perhaps they had some evidence that led them to believe maybe they were in the area or something like that, and that's why the 11th came up. Well, they have been already, I'm assuming, cleared. You know what I mean? And so now that it's still coming up, that tells me that there is something more significant about the 11th. What do you think? What are your thoughts? That's what I'm thinking.
That there's maybe well, for me it would have to be something like maybe electronic, right? So whether it be footage, a picture, because why would it be the 11th specifically? Or unless maybe a neighbor or somebody else remember seeing something different on the 11th that, you know, they're seeing if anybody else comes up with something similar. Maybe a sighting.
Well, here's a few things that we don't have. We don't have a year, make, or model of a vehicle, right? And so I don't know if there's necessarily a vehicle being cited that brings them an intention to that day. You know, a lot of people are going to assume that that's the night that the other image that we have. Let me pull it up real quick. This image might be from that night, given how dark it is, etc., and the lack of a backpack and the lack of the weapon. Also, people are saying because the lighting aspect of this. Now, I'm not saying that that's not true. You know, it's very well possible that this could be the case, that this could be the 11th, and he just showed up in the same clothes, and and you know didn't make entry into the house. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that it could be this could be it? Because I mean, what would make if you don't have a year, make, or model of a vehicle, if you don't have a vehicle identified, what would make you it have to be something like this, no?
For like the 11th, you mean? Because for me,
Be
this means
suspicious.
exactly. But for me, it means that this is like an anchor of some sort. So if we keep getting point back to the 11th, it makes me think that something either changed on that day or stopped on that day. So there's something about that day specifically that happens that's meaningful, let me say. So whether it's
And
they capture this or, but why would somebody come back?
right. And no, they have not said that this picture was from January 11th.
Gotcha.
In fact, the sheriff has pretty much alluded that there's no evidence that this is from a different day. So there's no date or timestamp or anything like that. Now, I don't think he's trying to give off any information. I think he's trying to withhold information when he says some of those things, but he's really downplaying the fact that this could be a different night.
So
More
if
so,
it were a different night, wouldn't it be before, don't you think? Because weren't
right?
there
It would be.
news media out there by January 11th, I feel like?
No. She disappeared January 31st.
Oh, duh. Gotcha. So this would be 2 weeks before. I'm thinking the first. So I'm thinking it's
Yeah.
10 days after. I got you. So this is right before.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Now, me personally, I think that this is when I looked at this, I thought this was the same night. You know, I thought it was the same night. A couple of different reasons, the plants and
The camera gets pushed, right?
all this stuff here is all the same spot. Nothing's moved. And January 11th to February 1st, you know, it's about 3 weeks difference. You know, I would assume, you know, light days are starting to get longer. Light is shifting a little bit. It's not like a tremendous difference, but some of these plants would have moved a little bit. You know, uh, for it to have been exactly the same and everything lined up just didn't really sit right with me as far as being a different night. I think that the reason why it looks darker
Because the
and
camera shift, right?
right where the camera is barely turning on, maybe it's the first time it's capturing him. There's a moment here where it like when it captures him coming from this side. I'm gonna try to pause it. It's like a flash right there, and you'll see like a big flash of light, and then that's just like where it comes on. So I don't know if that was a still image of a time. Maybe perhaps a lot of people were thinking maybe he had some sort of jammer. If he had a jammer, and maybe it was just kind of if he left his backpack somewhere else, and it was like you know towards the back of the house, maybe it was having an effect on the image as well. Right.
That's a
And
good point.
I don't know about the shoes being different. Let's see.
I don't think the shoes are different.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think it's probably from the same night. It's just, and doesn't right here, doesn't he like hit the camera? So this could just be a picture from before the camera getting hit and after the camera getting hit, because just a little bit off changes the whole lighting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all the same. I mean, here's the thing. You see this line right here on his chest.
Yes,
It's hard to see that line, but it does exist.
it does exist. It's
And
just that the backpack isn't on. So I think that's what confuses people. But like you said,
the
that could have
backpack with
been,
the gun. Now,
oh, the gun.
so what does that tell you? So
I didn't even notice that.
here's the thing though. They have camera on the side and the back of the house, but they didn't capture anything. Now, I don't believe he made entry into the front door. I strongly, I don't. The front door looks like it, I mean, he would have had to have picked it. Maybe he did. Maybe he picked the door, and that's the way he went in. But if he didn't, maybe he had to jump a fence, something of that nature. That having the gun in the position that it was would have been difficult to jump a fence. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe his entry was a window or something of that nature. Uh, but my other thought was maybe perhaps if he did have a jammer, he left it in the back because he wanted that significant or that area to be affected because that was going to be his entry point. Now, one of the questions that the homicide detective, had asked me was like, well, if he had a jammer on, why is he messing with the camera or trying to hide things or do any of those things? And I was like, well, the first thing is I personally think he wanted to initially be seen on camera. I think he was trying to cover up the camera, maybe perhaps he just didn't want any images of a vehicle pulling up because I think he had to have pulled the vehicle up, right? Even if it was a distorted image or whatever the case may be. Or maybe perhaps because of the distance from where the backpack is. And I would assume he would have had to have pulled the vehicle up maybe before he made entry. I mean, unless that's why there's blood standing still outside of that door because she was standing there while he went to go get the car.
That's my thing. There's the blood at the front. So how do we get the blood at the front?
Well, when I look at the blood on the front,
there had to be something. So he either went in through the front or came out.
Let's see. I got a good image.
Do we know? Because that door. That is
a lot of people and even the detectives and stuff, they were thinking that this was just somebody standing there, right? And then that the blood was just kind of dripping. I don't believe that to be the case. I think some of these bigger drops may be from her leaning over, but I strongly suspect that these little dots, all these little specks, that's like a spray.
Yes, I was listening to that dialogue, and I was trying to write in the chat. I'm like, can it be both? Like, can it be drops and aspiration? So I feel like that's what it looks like. It looks like it could be both. Like something could have been dropping, and at the same time, it looks like a cough or a sneeze of some sort. In my opinion, that's what I think. In my opinion,
exactly. And I think that there's a good possibility. Maybe perhaps he left her there and maybe he hit her so that she wouldn't go away or walk away, and he had to go get the vehicle or something, and pull it up. Apparently the blood drops stop at the end of the driveway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so one of the other things is that when I had Steve on, who is a CSI, he says that he believes that this spray must have been, her face may have probably have only been anywhere between like 12 to maybe 18 inches off the ground. Right. So,
I mean, that makes sense. If you've ever sneezed, like if you ever had a cold and you sneezed and you didn't get your hand in front of your face, and I mean, that's what I was guessing, that it would only be like a foot or so away from the ground. I did see when Jen showed the picture of the droplet and it had the little spots around it. So I get what she was saying, that when the droplet, the big one drops, it has the little ones, but I feel like there's way too many little ones to go with each big circle, if that makes sense. Like that's right. Like the simplest way I could think of that.
Now, here's the interesting thing, right? So if you're bleeding from your nose, from your mouth, would you grab your nose? Would you grab your mouth?
Well, it depends. Was she able to?
Well, here's the thing. Well, the reason I asked that is there's no hand mark of her getting up off the ground. That tells me that she was bound. Now, she wasn't gagged. She wasn't gagged because she wouldn't be able to do that if she was gagged or hooded or any of those things. But that she had restraints, and in the Carlos search warrant, they were looking for restraints.
I totally agree with that.
And so if they're looking for restraints and they believe that this is, evidence of her being close to the ground, and no handprint or anything like that to get up off the ground, then it's most likely that she was restrained. That might be, that's probably one of a few of the items that are in the backpack. And so if he's going in there, and this is might be why the sheriff is so adamant that this wasn't a burglary, like a robbery type of situation gone wrong, is because um, one, it's happening at night, and two, um, he's if he's taking the restraints into the house, that's kind of evidence of what his intentions is, don't you think?
1,000%. And I also think that in my opinion, it looked like there was a lot in his backpack. So what else was in there other than the restraints that he, like, to me, it's almost like a kit of some sort, whether it be a kit to take her out or a kit to take her out altogether, whatever the case may be. But I feel like he came there prepared. And I absolutely think that she wasn't able to put her hands down here.
Yeah, exactly. And so to me, I mean, I've said this a few times. I'm really thinking that there was some motivation here of maybe fantasy driven. Now, the fantasy aspect, could it have been a sexually motivated? Possibly. Could it be revenge fantasy? Possibly. Against whom? I don't know. There's been some reports out there that Ms. Guthrie had fired a healthcare provider like a few years back, who may be Middle Eastern or something like that. And so he was the reports also indicate that some of the names that were being looked at some of the gun stores had some different last names, not necessarily Hispanic. Now, I don't know how true any of that is, to be 110% honest with you. It's just some stuff that's reported on X. So take that for what it is with a grain of salt.
I
But
do think, though, that what you say about the fantasy, I think that that's an important point, because there's a huge possibility, in my opinion, that this could be fantasy driven. So because fantasy, it distorts the meaning of, a relationship, whether, again, and anybody that's followed me knows that I think that there might be a chance that this is grievance based, where, either the person, I think the person thinks that they know someone in the family, but maybe the family doesn't know them back. So like a parasocial type relationship. But with that being said, fantasy would be all part of that. So the person may believe that they have a special connection of some sort, or play a special role, or even have a special claim. But it only exists. It's like a one-way thing, in my opinion, if that's the case. So I just think that a grievance and fantasy base is a really, really, really big possibility for who we should be looking for in this case. So when you said that earlier, I was like, yes, fantasy, somebody said it. Like, I do think that played, in my opinion, a role.
yeah, I've been thinking down this for a while. Like, some of the clues, and again, I don't know how true they are, right? Like some folks have been indicating that maybe perhaps this is a jammer. Now, Miss Coffindaffer had brought up that there was a video where this guy had a backpack, it was full, and he had a jammer in it, and he had to hold it up, and it just distorted the image. I've seen other videos where they freeze the image. The image, you walk by, but you don't see anything. The image is frozen. It doesn't do the distortion aspect. And then you also have to consider a couple of different things. The persons that were utilizing the jammer were just burglars or thieves. This guy here has gotten away with this up to this point with some pretty heavy hitters when it comes to law enforcement investigating this. It's gotten all the way up to the president, inquiring about it. Cash Patel, FBI director, has been heavily involved in it as well. To me, in my opinion, this guy's, he's no fool. He's no idiot. He's experienced, in my opinion. And if he's smart, and he's smart enough to have gotten away with it to this point, he may have some knowledge on how to amplify, a jammer and make him invisible. And if that ends up being the case, because I'm assuming there's no images of the vehicle, because they haven't given us one. It seems like they're starting all over again, law enforcement, that is. And, they're going back to the beginning, looking at construction workers and vacant houses and all this other stuff. That means everything that they've come up with up to this point hasn't panned out. So for them to be going all the way back to the beginning and not assist the help of people in the area by putting out a vehicle, I mean, that's kind of what got Brian Koberger a little bit. They put out his vehicle and the guy panicked and he fled the area. He traveled across country and put a deflector on his car and hid the car in his house and was being real crazy, real suspicious. And they have all this evidence. And had they gone to court with that, we would have seen the suspicious activity that he was doing.
But we have to remember in that case, there was the LE from the school member that was like listening, and he said that he went and he looked around the entire campus, and so he was one of the people on campus that happened to own one of those cars. So my thing is, did we find that car? Did we like narrow the car down because we had one investigator out there that was listening and that took an extra step that he didn't have to do and found those cars? Do you know what I mean? So like if we don't have that same thing in this case, then we might not get.
Well, they haven't put out a BOLO yet. They haven't put out information about it. And that's what I'm saying.
That's true. I see what you're saying. That's true.
My point is given the fact that it seems to me, and even the homicide detectives that I had on the panel agreed that, or Ms. Kaufman never had on the panel that I was moderating, that this seems like it's going in the wrong direction pretty quick, that you would elicit the help of the public by saying, hey, we have a possible vehicle we're looking for, a Kia Soul or an Elantra, or whatever the case may be, right? They're not bringing that out. That tells me a lot about where they are in this investigation. And typically it's, if they're not giving out a lot of information, it's because they have a lot and they don't need to. They don't need the public's help, or they don't have enough. And the fact that it's gone 50 days already, I think it's probably the latter than the forefront. What do you think?
Yes, especially because Savannah puts out a brand new plea today to everybody saying to please look back, and that was just today. So if they knew more, I would assume even if they couldn't tell her more, that they would at least tell her like, don't worry, we got this type thing, or ruined something. So I feel like her plea today, like she could have put something out there like, thank you everybody, da da da, but it was the fact that she was like, everybody please like just think, and it was almost like another call to action. Like we need to think about more clues here, which made me think that they didn't have as much as you would hope.
Yeah, no, I don't think they do. And so what that tells me, if this guy, let's just say he had a jammer, right? Somebody might say, well, maybe he forgot that he had the jammer on, and he forgot he had the jammer. And so maybe that's why he's just walking up. He's not really caring about it, etc. I don't think so. I don't think so, because look at the way he walks up. Let me forward it to where he's walking up.
I totally agree with that. I don't think he would forget that. Also, Army Vet mentioned that the neighbor said that that there was like a certain point of time where their cameras didn't work. So wouldn't that be the effect of a jammer if there was one? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
What a jammer does for people that are on here that have no idea, I guess is what I'm saying.
So for these security systems that utilize Wi-Fi, what it does is that it'll interfere with the Wi-Fi connection, and so that way it won't. What's the word I'm looking for? You'll have some imaging problems, and so it'll either distort the image or it'll completely shut it out. And so some thieves, and I think that this guy is an experienced thief. I really truly do. The mouth light is pretty consistent with like auto burglars. When they're inside and they're stealing a lot of stuff and breaking into things,
because you got to keep your hands free.
Exactly. And so the gloves, to me, when I saw that image, I was like, man, this guy's experienced. He knows he knows that if he just puts on latex gloves, he's going to be sweating his hands off. And so you put the cloth gloves underneath, and it doesn't necessarily prevent you from sweating, but you're not dripping sweat everywhere. You're not moving around and then the sweat falls down your arm or drips off your hand and into the ground, leaving your DNA behind. If you wear those gloves, these cloth gloves underneath the latex gloves, One, you don't sweat as much, and two, what you do sweat is absorbed by the cloth. And so it's really a sign of experience, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I think a lot of people were saying, like, could he been wearing two pair of the other gloves? And I think his hand looks big enough to think that it's probably like you were saying, like a regular glove, and then with the nitro glove over top. My thing is, I thought about this, and has anybody ever tried to put on two nitro gloves or whatever? I tried it today because I just happen to have them from dyeing my hair not too long ago, and it's like almost impossible. Or I just have ADHD and I have like Hawk hands, like Hawk smash, because I couldn't do it.
I was
Like, it
able to
wasn't
do
easy.
it. I was able to. I had some here. I have a pair of cloth gloves. I don't have them anymore in this room. I moved
It's
them.
possible, but isn't it hard?
It's not easy, but it's not. Well, I mean, I
Maybe
don't
I
know.
just have
Maybe
Hawk
it's because you
hands.
have nails. Do you have nails?
No, not really. I just have Hawk hands. That's all. I'm just so rough. That's probably what. And I do have a little bit of nails, so that could be
Yeah.
it too.
Because when I tried it, it wasn't. I mean, obviously, it was a lot. It's easier to just put in one, and putting in the second one, it was a little bit of a challenge. But um, it was a looser fit still. It was when I put the cloth glove underneath of it, and then I put the nitrate glove on top of it, where it really looked very similar to this. It looked identical, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Um, and so on the right side of the desk, there's a cloth glove, but I don't have a nitrate glove.
Mm-hmm.
I see a Steelers fan. If you want to give me one, a nitrate glove and another one of these cloth gloves, I'll be great. I'd appreciate it.
We'll be like
That way I
OJ.
can
We'll
show
try on the
everybody.
glove.
If it don't fit, you must quit. But
That's
bring
it.
me two if you don't mind. Bring me two of the nitrate gloves, so
Yes.
I can put two on one hand, and then I can also do it with the glove there, so I can kind of show everybody what I'm talking about.
So
But
smart, Steelers fan.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, this one's torn. And so this is the one that I was dealing with on my Pokemon show. So some more hints for those that are still trying to find that. Let's see.
That's awesome.
Steve says the aspirated blood pattern is consistent from injury, allowing the blood through nasal or throat passage, choking victim, or creating smaller droplets to form due to force of the cough. Now,
So
she
he's
was
agreeing
older.
that it's aspiration, right?
Right. I wonder if she yelled and he, like, maybe he punched her in the gut.
Or in the face of some sort.
Well, I thought about the face, but I can't help but think that if he punched her in the face, that she would have, like, flung, and if she bled like that, we would have seen some blood fly.
But how would you get blood from getting punched in the gut?
Well, if it caused, like, if he punched her in the chest or something, and it caused some bleeding,
Oh,
maybe
I see.
in the lung or in the throat. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
And then she goes to the ground and then coughs and then just kind of sits there while he goes and gets the car. She's on the ground, just kind of like that. That was kind of what I was thinking.
That makes sense. I was thinking in the face, but you're right. If somebody like hit you in the face, you would see it more.
Well,
So that does make sense.
I think what you would see is, like, if she was hit with that much force, that we would see the blood fling onto the wall.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't think I was considering that. I was just thinking in the face. But then when you said that, I was thinking how it would look. And you're right. That because you would see it. It would show a pattern that would look like that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
And so,
or it could have just been a bloody nose or something. Or no, because then she would have coughed it up. But your nose and your throat are connected. So it could have been the bloody nose that got in her throat too. I mean, I guess it could have been anything. The point is that it's there. And so where did it come from? Was it in the beginning? Was it at the end? That's what I want to know, because I want to know, like, was this the start of the confrontation, or was this towards the end when they're leaving?
I would think when they're leaving,
Okay.
But so here's the thing. This is the approach up. And as he's walking up, he ducks his head down, first and foremost. Ducks his head down, turns on a light, and ducks his head. Walks funny. And look at where he steps. Like, to me, this is all show. This is all staged. He wants the camera to capture this. And then I got to go to the beginning. I don't know why when I did this, got it all jacked up. But then he walks up, and then he's not really doing his best job to cover his face, in my opinion.
No, not at all.
Like his hand is just kind of closed like a fist, like, almost like he's pretending to hold a flashlight.
And it looks like he like looks right into the camera. I'm like, that was dumb.
And then
Where in the beginning he does look like he's trying to look away. So why look right into the camera if you weren't trying to be looked at?
Yeah. And so you can see here. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna run and get those gloves. I'll let you.
Yeah, I'll talk
show real quick. I'll be right back.
No problem. Hi everyone. Welcome. So yes, I do think that here, in my opinion, let me just give you what I think my position here is. I think what stands out to me is the possibility of a grievance, fixation, and perceived personal significance. So I'm interested in whether this was driven by resentment, obsession, humiliation, fantasy, or some kind of perceived relational or parasocial injury, because those themes that we're seeing here often matter more psychologically than the surface story we first latch onto. So, for example, that it might have been a robbery with or a kidnapping with a ransom attached to it. In my opinion, I don't think that it's that, to be completely honest with you. So a parasocial relationship, just in case somebody doesn't know, this dynamic is when one person, so it would only be one-sided, forms a relationship due to access, attention, recognition. There's many ways, but think of like a Savannah Guthrie, who also hosts her mom on the show, right? There's been times where they go out to eat together, stuff like that. So I'm wondering, could this have been somebody that, formed a grievance of some sort, either through that show where they see her, or even in her hometown where, somebody forms a grievance against Nancy herself. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm performing the experiment.
Yes, let's do it.
So I'm going to do the double layers first.
Here, you have to put your hand up higher. People are going to be like, Daniel, you're not in this shot.
It's not the easiest to do, but like you can kind of, to me, it doesn't seem as goofy.
Yeah, I see.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now let me take these off, and then I'll put a cloth one on first.
Oh, that was the 2 nitrile gloves?
That was the 2 nitrile gloves.
Oh, okay.
All right. And so then,
it wasn't that hard to put 2 on. Why was it harder for me? I just must be rough. And I didn't do that either.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. If you don't do that, it's tough.
That's probably what it was, because I'm like, my gloves did not go on that easy.
Yeah, I know you. I've been working with these for a minute. All right, so doing it with the cloth glove and then the latex glove.
That's definitely it. For sure.
You know what I'm saying? It's a thicker hand. It's thicker.
And you could see there's not as much space.
Mm-hmm.
Where the other one, you could see a lot more of the nitrile glove, like the wrinkles of it. Where here, it's like you said, it's more like filled out.
Exactly. And like if you're doing like this number here.
Yes. It literally looks just like it.
Trying to get a good. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know.
I think it's probably that too. If you put it right back up, could we put the picture back up again so people could see? Because I think I agree. Even in one photo, I feel like we could see a rip in the glove. There you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then bend your pinky a little bit more. It looks the exact same. That's it, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing with this.
No,
yeah,
no,
I don't know why you would do this. This
right?
seems weird. I don't understand why you would try to cover a camera like this. I don't get it.
That does seem weird as you're redoing it.
Like, it doesn't even feel natural to do. It doesn't even feel natural to do that. And I can tell you this, that my hand, if I was just wearing the latex glove, my hand would have already been probably starting to soak in sweat. And with the cloth glove on it, it's fine. And so I think this screams out experience, in my opinion.
That's literally what I was just going to say. I was going to say, why would somebody do that? Because they've learned through other times. You know, you live and you learn. So you commit crimes and you start to refine them because you get to know what mistakes you made in the past.
Exactly. And to me, the aspect of him being seen, this is if he has a jammer. I don't know, right? We don't know. But if he does and he doesn't have it on and he's doing this number or whatever, that's for intimidation. You know what I mean? Now, I would get it if he was just trying to scare Nancy, so that she would go willingly and etc. Right? Okay, why not turn the jammer on from the get-go? Why be seen on camera? If he had one, again, I don't know that he did or didn't. That tells me that, one, I think he wants possibly Savannah to see him, possibly he wants the world to see him, and I think that's where we're at here on this.
So it would give him a thrill, right?
I mean,
which would be part of the fantasy.
BTK, Zodiac, a lot of these guys, they couldn't stay away. They had to do something. And I think that maybe perhaps is what law enforcement is waiting for, another shoe to drop.
That's the thing. I think that's a good point, because if it is fantasy driven, chances are they'll be back in some way, whether it be like in a way where they're, trying to be part of the investigation or where they strike again. But I feel like they'll be back. I don't know how long in between, but usually, which means that they probably have struck before. We just might not have known about it because it wasn't Savannah Guthrie's. You know what I mean? There wasn't somebody that was so in the limelight involved.
Right. I don't disagree with you. I think that there's a possibility that this person may have done it before. I do think that there's a high likely that he may do it again. And I think that's what the sheriff was trying to say. When he said that he thought it was a targeted attack and that you're not safe, why are those two things? How can those two things be true? Well, you can target, a serial killer or a serial offender can target somebody and then target another and then another and another and another. And I think that's where we might be at on this case, is that we have somebody who maybe this is the first abduction, but I seriously doubt this would be the first time he ever got into somebody's house.
I agree with that.
I would seriously doubt that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's been in somebody's house while the house was occupied in the past.
BK, right?
Just like BK.
He might have been around too. That's absolutely true. So, and that it does tell me, like, psychologically, the chances, if I had to bet money, it would be that he's going to strike again. It's just a matter of time and where. We might not put it together right away because it might be in a different state, or somebody just might not put the pieces together. But you usually don't do something like this and then just stop. And if you do, it's usually because you get caught doing something, whether it be this or, you get caught robbing something at the store later. So now you're in jail for that. This is the only thing. Don't they have DNA? And could it just be that he just has never been caught before?
Well, yeah, but here's the other thing. So if the names and that information is true, which I'm not certain about, so I don't know. But we do know that some gun shop owners were talked to, and they had described that the pictures looked of like Hispanic descent or origin and or Mexican descent. My question earlier on the panel was, if they have DNA, but let's just say this guy's not from here, right? And majority of his family is not from here. How is that going to impact an IgG? And the answers that they gave were awesome. They said, hey, this could really impact, because you don't have, like, for instance, to say he came out of Mexico or somewhere else, even southern from that. If he comes out of poverty and his family's poverty, they're not buying 23andMe and doing ancestry and those type of things. And also, it's not something that's real big in some of these other like poor countries. And so uh, the other thing too is like, let's just say you have somebody that may have taken, or they may need to find somebody, right? Like remember in the Brian Koberger case, Othram had it, and they found these four brothers that they wanted to go and meet up with and take their DNA. And then that was, the FBI is like, never mind, we're going to take over. And then they came up with Brian Koberger's name because they ended up putting his name into the database that they probably shouldn't have. Well, anyways, that's here nor there. They got the right guy. That's what counts. If they have a situation where they have somebody like a family member, like a 12th cousin or something that they have to go and get more DNA from, but that person is out of the country, that itself brings on its own problems. So that could be why there's such a delay in the DNA. They may have some DNA. It just may be because of, if the guy's not from here, that could be complicating. Now, if he is from here, then I would assume it shouldn't be as difficult to pull up a tree. And we already surpassed what it took for Brian Koberger. Now, I know that in this situation, they're a little bit behind, just sort of because I think the sheriff there sent it to the lab in Florida, and then they had to get it back, and then so they're a little bit behind the ball. But I would expect something sooner than later. What do you think?
I totally agree with you, but I think, I don't know how smart it was that, I mean, I guess but the sheriff was saying that he gave it to the people that they usually go with, because just like if it was anybody else. So I do get that, but I feel like this is like a high stakes case. So do you think, my question to you would be, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. So my question back to you would be, do you think that it would have been better if they had given it to the FBI to go to Quantico, or would they have gotten the exact same data?
No, they should have given it to the FBI right away.
That's what I thought.
Like, there's a lot of mistakes in this. So many mistakes that they have made that could result in a lot of issues down the road. Like not processing the front area. There's a lot of mistakes that were made, but
that's a pretty big one.
Mm-hmm. And so many mistakes that I think that maybe perhaps, I mean, if you walk up to the scene, right? I mean, I don't understand why you're not processing that. I understand that maybe perhaps she didn't have a subscription, and so they didn't have a video right away of the guy walking up. But look at what you have. You have blood on the ground, and you have the doorbell camera missing. That's not her walking off on her own accord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Process the damn scene right there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I feel like it wasn't until Brian Etten, in my opinion, said something after that first
week.
Yeah, that they even knew that there was, like, I feel like they like, and then he said something about the camera being ripped off. And I feel like they just didn't know the answer to it, which made me think that, like, did you even see it yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, if it didn't dawn on them that there was supposed to be a doorbell camera.
That's what I mean. I don't think they realized it until Brian Etten said it. Like, that's just crazy to me.
I mean, but those are the biggest clues that this is something much more nefarious, that she didn't walk off. She didn't wander off. This is somebody taking her. Now, that's before you even get in the room or the house. Once you get in there, I'm sure the evidence is going to dictate something. You know what I mean? But that's just from the beginning aspect of what you can see. If I walked up there, I'm seeing these plants on the floor, crumbled up. I'm seeing blood, aspirated blood on the floor, drops that stop at the driveway, and a doorbell camera that is missing. I'm thinking that this is somebody being taken against their will. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to connect those dots.
Yeah, but you have to know that there's evidence at the front door first.
It's there.
I guess I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even think that they saw it to begin with. So to even think that, I don't even know if they got to that, because I don't even know when did they even see the stuff at the front door, and why didn't they see it sooner? I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know.
I don't. And Army Vet 420.
Yeah, that's a good point about the digital. He's saying that it could have been a digital stalker too. Like, you could get into somebody's ring cameras and stuff. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
So, yeah, no, I did. But this is from a Nest. But still, I think people can get into any of that.
Yeah, I think I meant Nest. I just said the wrong thing.
Yeah. But, in my opinion, like I said, if this guy wanted to be seen, it's for a reason. And I think there's a lot of people that are alluding to the fact that he may have been in the house for like 40 minutes. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. He just disconnected the doorbell camera, and the time that she walked out of the house was 40 minutes. I don't know how long it took him to get into that house. And if that was him on January 11th, all dressed up like that, then he was probably trying to make entry then and failed, which means um, he still didn't have a way to get in. And, I don't know. I know that at 212, there was some motion on the side of the house, and law enforcement don't know if it was him or if it was a cat or an animal. Well, that
That's
sounds like it was an outside thing. Doesn't sound like an inside thing, right? Sounds like an outside thing. So if that's an outside thing, then what is that? Him going from the front to the back, from the back to the front again? This is all after the camera was taken off. If it's an outside thing, then is that before he made entry? I think a lot of people are assuming that as soon as the camera was disconnected, the doorbell camera was disconnected, that was the moment that he made entry into the house. I'm not necessarily sold on that.
actually a really good point.
I think it may have happened after 212, and there's a good possibility he was only in there for about 10 minutes, which is still a significant amount of time for somebody to be in there.
So for me, whether he was in there 10 minutes or 30 minutes, for me, that still could go with the revenge type thing. Like he could have went in there not planning to take her. Maybe he takes her because she sees who he is. Or, I mean, I don't know. There could be many reasons why he was in there for so long if he was, because you're right, 10 minutes is long. We know from the Koberger case that could have taken 2 minutes up to 6 minutes. And that seemed like that should have taken longer. So a lot can happen in 15 minutes. But for me, it could also be, why? I mean, for me, there's a whole fantasy thing that could be happening with the 15 minutes or the 40 minutes or however long he was in there. What do you think that, like, in other words, if they were going to go in, if he was going to go in and take her and then leave, it wouldn't have taken that long, right? So why be in there for longer than that? For me, it would be something fantasy driven or revenge driven. I don't know what it would be for you.
I'm still thinking it's more fantasy driven. The timeline shows 40 minutes. No, it doesn't. It says at 1:47, the doorbell camera disconnects. 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on camera. At 2:28, the pacemaker stops. It disconnects from the phone. It doesn't say anything about him making entry at
So it's only like
1:47.
16 minutes between 2:12
Yeah.
and 2:28.
And that is him walking. That doesn't mean that he still had to make entry. I'm assuming that between 1:47 and 2:12, he was trying to pick the lock at the front door and he failed. And then now he's walking to the back. I don't know. And then he's walking back and forth. Now he still needs to either pick the lock, still needs to find a window, still needs to, however it is that he made entry, which they have not released to us that the entry point, which doesn't mean that law enforcement don't know. I'm fairly positive that law enforcement are well aware or have an idea or a theory of how he made entry. But we have no idea how long he was inside that house. We just know that the doorbell camera disconnects at 1:47. That does not mean that he walked in that door at 1:47. We just know that she left at 2:28.
Great point. A lot of people are asking if we think there was one or two. I think me and Daniel are like on an island of our own, but we both think that there was only one, right? Am I saying the right thing for you? I only think there was one.
If it's fantasy driven, I mean, how many fantasy driven type of crimes
you share with your friends? How many fantasies have you shared with Blue before or Jaime?
Exactly. Like, I mean, I don't think that's the case. Even if it was like motive of revenge fantasy, right?
I agree.
You know what I mean? That's just, to me, I strongly suspect it's one person.
Me too.
There's also 1.2 million reasons for somebody to talk, and not necessarily one person diming out the other person, but when you have multiple people involved, you might have one person that's a calculated, individual, but to have like, you might have another person who's just either stupid, that's just follower, that's just following along. They're going to make a mistake. They're going to tell somebody something. The next thing too is, this happened at what time of night? Now you have one person who's, has to do all this, get away and not be noticeable by friends and family. Now this times two, now this other person also, and that's just if there was another person. And just one. A lot of people are thinking there's multiple people involved. This is a whole thing.
Yeah,
if
I
that
agree. People can't keep secrets.
yeah, somebody would have gotten caught. And then again, if you have this whole fantasy situation, they talk about DNA and stuff like, not saying that DNA is like, from an essay or anything like that, but he would have had to have like I don't know what kind of DNA it is. So it could have been touch DNA, it could have been a lot of different things. But if it's saliva, if it's something else, there's a number of ways that could happen, and it'd be because he's getting too close and too physical.
People are asking if the 40 minutes to enter. Wait, they said, so your fantasy person took 40 minutes to enter. I think what you're saying is no, because, oh, I see. They're saying so it took between 1:47 and 2:12. But didn't they say they saw somebody on the side of the house? So wouldn't that be as if they were still trying to get in?
So yeah, it says here at 1:47 a.m. the doorbell disconnects. Doesn't say that the door opened. Doesn't say anything like that. Just the doorbell disconnects. At 2:12, software detects a person on camera. Now, during the press conference or during an interview with Chief Nanos, he mentioned that they didn't know if it was an animal or if it was something, it could have been a person. And so that was initially what they had said. Now, if they're thinking it was an animal, unless Ms. Guthrie had a cat or a dog inside of her house, this is most likely an outside camera that has detected somebody moving. So I would suspect that he still has not yet made entry into the property or into the house, if he's still moving around the outside. Right now, if he, because the cameras, we've got to remember the cameras that are on the property that we know of, I believe it's one of the side of the house, one of the pool, one of the back of the house. He disconnected the front one, so it's not like he's walking out of the front house to go get the car to pull up, so he's walking along the outside of the house. If he had already made entry, why would you then exit out the back only to come back in to the front to then exit to the front? Because you're coming out and going multiple times to go get the car or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. So to me, this is him still trying to make entry into the house. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe he did make entry right at 1:47. He walked right in, and an animal did walk to the side, and that's what they captured. I mean, it's
I think either way, though, right? There's data at 1:47 and data at 2:12 and data at 2:28. So it's not like we're guessing how long he was there. He was there for 40 minutes. So whether 20 minutes of it was getting in and the other, 20 minutes was him inside, or was it 10 minutes and 30 minutes? I don't know that it really is going to matter as much how much time it took to get inside versus how much time he stayed inside. The point is that it was from beginning to end. So for somebody to say about the 40 minutes, there is a timeline here. We just don't know how much of it was outside and how much was inside. So that's what we're saying. We're not saying that it took him 40 minutes to get in, but he probably wasn't inside for the whole 40 minutes either.
I mean, for all I know, he got in there at 2:25, went directly to her, got her, rushed her out of bed, and walked her out. I have no idea what time he actually made entry into the house. All we know is that at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects, and we can assume he hadn't made entry at that point yet.
And who knows how long he was there before that? We only see him on that front camera, but he could have been somewhere else. Do we know that he came at 1:47? Could he have been there even earlier than that? And
well, yeah, he was there earlier than 1:47 because that's when the doorbell disconnects. So that image that we see him walking up is before 1:47.
I meant significant. Could he have been there for do you think he was just coming up for the first time there, or could he have already been on the property for a minute?
I think that him walking up here with the gun and the backpack, that image is the same as this. If that's the same night, then I think he gave up, walked around the back at some point. Maybe that's when he left the jammer thing at the backyard, came back around, disconnected the camera, went back around. Maybe that's the last time when they capture him going back around.
I have a question. He disconnects the camera when he has his backpack on. So wouldn't this have to be before that?
No.
Because once he takes the backpack off. I mean,
don't
once
think
he takes the camera off, how would you get a picture after that?
he doesn't, the image doesn't show him, the video doesn't show him disconnecting the camera.
Oh, so you're saying that he might not have disconnected it right here.
Yeah, he may not have disconnected it at this moment. I don't think he did. I think this is when he approached, right? So he approaches, he turns around, he looks for.
And we don't know what time that was?
There's no timestamp on what time he approaches. This could be at midnight. This could be.
Wow.
Yeah, I have no idea what time he approaches.
Wow.
You know, there's a lot of assumptions that this was like right away, and don't know. But this is the moment that he's approaching. That flashlight is when it's capturing him. He's trying to cover the camera there, but it doesn't show him. The camera just kind of stops with him trying to cover it. From what I understand is, since this is battery operated, even if he pulled it off the wall, we would have seen that until he removed the batteries.
I was just going to say that. I think the Megyn Kelly show did a demonstration where even after they pulled it off, it still continues to take. So I wonder if they knew that, because I don't think I would know that. Not that I'm breaking in anyone's house, and I would hope that I'd know a little bit more than, I wouldn't be that dumb. But does the person even know that it's still taping even after they take it off? Because, I mean, and would you get, I guess you could still get the, like, how do we know how much the police have after this? Because like you're saying, it still would continue.
Yeah, this is all they release. I'm 1,000% positive they have a lot more than this. This isn't all they have, guys. I guarantee you.
I wish they would show us more. And why wouldn't they show us more? Like, what's the point of that?
Well, if somebody confesses, how many times did you go to the front door?
Yeah, but at this point, we need somebody we need somebody.
Yeah, but you don't want somebody to confess and say, everything about the crime because they saw it on TV.
That's true.
Because then you can get false confessions. So if somebody false confesses, you want to ask them, how many times did you approach the door? How many times did you approach the camera? Especially if you have little evidence. If you have a lot of evidence, like inside, which, you're probably going to ask, like, what happened with the blood? Those type of things. What was where did you go? Was there a struggle here? To try to corroborate with the evidence that you do have. But if there's a lack of evidence, you're going to want to keep everything really close to the vest or to the chest, because you really don't want anybody to come forward and just say, oh, it was me. I went up there 3 times to the camera. On the 3rd time is when I was successful ripping it off. I threw it on the ground, or I disconnected it by taking the batteries out at that point. And if you have that video, then you can say, all right, this is something only this person would know. You got him.
No, you're right. I think of like John Marcar or whatever with the John Benet Ramsey. Like, that's exactly what he does. And that's exactly how they wind up realizing it's not him, because he didn't know some of the things that they did hold back. So you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. So, I think they have way more evidence. I don't know what time this is. So he may have been out there more than 40 minutes, guys. A lot of people that are thinking he was out there 40 minutes, and that's a long time. He may have been out there 50 minutes, an hour. I have no idea how long he was there before he actually disconnected that camera. And then we have no idea how long it was after he disconnected the camera that he made entry into the home. I think the only thing we can safely say is that the camera was disconnected at 1:47 and that she left the property at around 2:28.
Well, it's true. But I didn't even think about that, about him. Like, I didn't realize that there wasn't a timestamp on when that was that we're looking at. So that's interesting.
Yeah, no idea. And that it complicates things, makes things pretty complicating. But I would think that law enforcement would utilize that information and be able to, they have a much more narrow timeline that they're looking at. I hope, at least.
Do you think this is a cold case now?
Not necessarily a cold case in the essence of so Philip Dubé, he answered it right. He said that it's not a cold case in the essence of a murder investigation. As far as trying to save her life and from a kidnapping, it's probably not going to happen. And so this could take a long time. Some of these murders have happened, have taken a while, especially if you have a situation where you truly have somebody who's outside of the circle, somebody that it's like Brian Koberger, right? Like he made a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes weren't uncovered until they found his identity. Like him
That's
taking his
true.
own car, him turning off his phone, him doing his searches, all of that. They needed to figure out who he was before they could capture that evidence. And this guy could have made a lot of similar mistakes.
So that's interesting you say that with Brian Koberger. I always say that if he had interpersonal relationships, he wouldn't have had to do the crime. So I'm wondering if you could see that same connection there, if it could be that also same connection where like this person might not tell anybody because maybe he doesn't have many interpersonal relationships.
Well, I mean,
which would be interesting.
So I don't know about the medication stuff, right? Because we haven't seen the search warrant, but they were looking for medications of Nancy Guthrie, what it sounds like. This person has to have the ability to, at least in some planning, because I'm assuming that was part of the plan. If he took her medicines, that's not something that, something freaky happens at a robbery gone wrong. She passes away. She has your DNA on your person, or she's injured and her DNA is on her person. You have to take her from the scene, and then you go back for her medicine, and all of you think about that and all of the commotion and stuff. Or if you're taking her and she's like, and your intention isn't to keep her alive, and she's like, I'm not going to survive without my medication. Can you go get it? And he goes and gets it. I mean, I don't know. The medication aspect, if that is real, that tells me that he wanted to keep her alive for a period of time.
Which then tells me that the fantasy thing is even more a possibility.
Oh, yeah, because there was in my opinion, no real ransom asked for.
No, not me either. Who does a ransom like days later and sends it to Harvey from TMZ and not the family?
Exactly. And not only that, like they may have had some information, but it wouldn't have been difficult to even have seen things inside of Nancy Guthrie's house. It was put on the Today Show. And I guarantee you, if you give an internet sleuth 3 days to look up anything on somebody, they'll find some things. I mean, look at the David case on how they were able to find out.
Celeste. Yep. I was just thinking that.
How people were able to find the house based on stuff in the background off of Zillow. It's insane what people can find and how quickly information is out there, especially from somebody who's had cameras in her home. So
even like Gabby Petito, that whole case was pretty much solved from internet sleuths.
Yeah. And so I thought of maybe perhaps if it was a abduction for ransom and she just didn't survive and they panicked and disposed of her. The intention was still to keep her alive. So whoever did this had to have had a place that didn't have other people around, no family, no wives, no kids. Because they're like, honey, what do you have in the basement? You know what I mean? This has to be a solo person.
Although think of like BTK and them, and I'm not saying that he's a serial, like I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying there are people who have places in their home where other people don't go, and so I don't know that I would necessarily say that, but
BTK didn't keep anybody alive though at his house.
Alive, I hear you. No, I hear you.
If their intention was ransom or their intention was, some sort of sexual fantasy and keeping her alive, that this should say a lot about the person, that this person doesn't have immediate family there. If this person is in the area for business or for work or for if they live there, which I wouldn't think so, because if they're renting out a place or something like that, that comes with its own obstacles.
What about like Elizabeth Smart? They had that lady was there and she wasn't, she's in jail now, but so there was somebody there. Or like if you look at Epstein and Ghislaine. So for me, it's not even about that. For me, I just think that I think it was a single person that did it. I don't think there was more than one person. I don't know where I think they live or who they live with. I don't think I thought about it that much, but I'm going to think about it now that you say it.
Well, I mean, if the plan was to keep her alive,
yeah, that makes sense, right?
They would need to visit her. If they didn't keep her at her house, they would have to have a separate location. They would have to have a barn. They would have to have something. And they would also have to be able to keep it secret from their loved ones.
That's true. That part, I definitely agree with that.
Like how? And so to me, it makes a lot more sense that this is some loner who doesn't have those obstacles.
Like BK, who a
Yeah.
loner.
And if you have a loner, I don't think they have a friend that's going to be helping them out too.
That's my whole point. That was my whole point of even bringing that up. That's my whole point, is that if they were able to have the ability to have interpersonal relationships, a crime like this might not even occur.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
And
with
we
you.
always think the same way for some reason on most things. There's only one case that we don't always agree on. But for the most part, every case we literally think the same way. It's weird.
No, I mean, even on that case, I don't disagree with you on a lot of it. I just don't think that the evidence points that way.
No,
That's the difference.
I'm afraid to even say the name. I feel like whenever I say his name, I get like blown up online.
I know. And the crazy thing is, like, he just recently got arrested for something else. And I'm like, you see, guys, law enforcement aren't protecting him. It's not like they're protecting him and keeping him safe and saying, oh, we're going to not arrest him. If they have evidence for something against him, they're going to take him in. And they did. They arrested him for something that he did do. So it's not like they're protecting him. Well, anyways, I know we're getting over the hour now. What are your final thoughts on this? Do you think we'll get any answers soon?
I don't know. I don't know if we get any answer soon. I feel like there was a lot of mistakes made, and therefore I don't know that I just hope that it's not too late to find someone. But then again, I come for the psychology part, not necessarily the law enforcement part. So that's probably more of a question for you. But psychologically, I do think, in my opinion, we're dealing with a fantasy grievance type event. But that's just my opinion based on my many years of experience in abnormal psych. What do you think?
I mean, I think it'll eventually get solved or resolved. I think they'll eventually figure out, like, who. Maybe they won't figure out the why. I think it depends on how long it takes, right? Because the longer it takes, like, some evidence might be missing and stuff. Like, for instance, if they would have found this guy right away, they may have confiscated his phone, found some search history, searches, things of that nature, what he was into, things like that. If they found some burner devices, given the amount of time that's happened, he may have destroyed all that, and you're not going to find out evidence of these things. And so, I think we may never find out, like, why this happened, unless the guy comes forward and says it. And, a lot of people, and with the panel that I was on earlier, we're bringing up Brian Koberger.
We don't know if it's true.
Yeah, they were saying if Brian Koberger talked, which a lot of people thought he would by now, he hasn't. If they ever did arrest somebody, would they even say anything about it? And so we may never find out much about this, but I think that in time, I hope they find they get some answers. I'm nervous about this case. The fact that they're having to go back to square one, look at construction workers and people in the area again, really, really tells me that whatever it is that they were really hoping was the answer didn't pan out.
Yeah, I agree. I just hope that it doesn't take somebody else getting hurt and then them connecting the DNA that way. So, like, they don't find them until somebody else gets hurt.
But that's what happened in the Rachel Marine case to a certain extent. You had a guy who was a home invader, went out there in California, and then traveled across. And he was also from somebody not from the United States, which I think that's why the IGG probably didn't work so well. Are you familiar with the Rachel Marine case?
I'm not. I'll have to look into it. I'm really not.
But Rachel Marine was a jogger out in Maryland who ended up getting bludgeoned to death by somebody who was a non-resident who had I think like a rap sheet. And then she was also SA'd. And they did some blood analysis or some DNA analysis, and it came back to a home invader who had broken into a house in California. So he had went from California to Maryland, and in California, he broke into a house and SA'd a young girl, like 13 years old. And they had image of him walking out, and they had DNA, but they couldn't connect him. They finally were able to track him down, I think in Oklahoma. And so crazy stuff.
I feel like I might remember it now. He got caught on the camera out front or something.
Yeah, as he was walking out of the California house.
Wow. I don't think I realized that there was a secondary. I just remember seeing that video, but I don't remember like the story behind it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But they do get him eventually,
Rachel
right?
Marine. Yeah, they got him, but it took like that initial like home invasion that he did. I think it was like 2 or 3 years old, but because he messed up in the Rachel Marine case, they were able to tie them both together.
Wow, that's so interesting.
So, that was one of the things that the homicide detective that I had on her that I was talking with earlier mentioned. He said, you may need an act of God to happen where some evidence just falls in your lap. Somebody just remembers something and comes forward, or decides to come forward one day, or the guy makes a mistake like that and does something else.
It's probably going to be more of a mistake, in my opinion, because I feel like if $1.2 million isn't moving the needle, like if that's not getting somebody to talk today, why would it get them to talk in 3 weeks or in a month?
Well, you would think that amount of money on your head is going to make you nervous and act a certain way. So nobody's picking up on that. Nobody's
unless you've done this before.
I mean, even if he has, this is on a platform that has reached mainstream. Like this is bigger than probably anything he may have expected it to be this big. He may have wanted it to be this big, but it's one thing to fantasize about standing on a stage and singing in front of 40,000 people, and another thing to be doing it, right? And so, he's in that scenario right now where all eyes are looking at that camera and that video of him walking up that he decided, in my opinion, to let them see. And people are looking at everything: the shape of his eyes, the shape of his mouth, the shape of his mustache, the shape of his head. And
they find him.
And nobody's reporting somebody acting odd that lives in the area or was in the area, knew about it. I don't know. So I just think that this guy's still very, very much a loner.
Yeah, I was going to say he might be out already.
Yeah. What do you got going on the rest of the week, Dr. Vona?
Well, I have been looking into the JLR thing, so I don't even know if you even know what that is, but if not, I could fill you in later. But anyway, I see people writing it in your chat, so if anybody wants, I did a live stream yesterday on it. If anybody wants to go catch up on that, and I'll probably do another. So that's what I'm up to. How about you? Probably tomorrow I'll probably be live. I don't know if that's exactly what I'll be doing tomorrow, but that's the latest thing that I've been into other than this, obviously. How about you?
Probably be talking a little bit more about this case, maybe even General William McCaslin, talk a little bit more about his disappearance. He's also another guy that went missing in New Mexico. He was the former general for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he was in charge of a couple of high secret programs. Well, not just him, but 6 others are also either missing or deceased within a year. Within the last year, have either been missing or deceased that were part of the same program.
The aliens got him, Daniel.
I don't know the aliens got him, but this guy
I was literally I was joking, because that's when you said secret program. I'm like, oh no, Daniel with the aliens.
My thing is, more so than anything, I wouldn't be surprised if he was silenced, because he was a guy that was talking. Now, he was talking to Tom DeLonge about certain things. If he was talking to Tom DeLonge, do you know who Tom DeLonge is?
No, tell me.
He's the lead singer for Blink-182. He started something called To the Stars Academy. He strongly believes in UFOs and aliens and stuff. Well, McCaslin...
I was just joking. I am a psychic. I don't know why I knew this was going to aliens. I don't know why. I just felt it in my soul.
Well, the WikiLeaks that occurred with, I believe it was like John Podesta and Hillary Clinton, brought up McCaslin and his knowledge of possible ET craft and things of that nature. That was part of the WikiLeaks. And when he disappeared, McCaslin's wife made a post about the suspected theories about him being, with aliens or whatever. And he's like, yes, it's true that, he talked about certain things with Tom DeLonge and everybody else. So they were aware of that. Right now, we're in a war with like Iran and things. I wouldn't, if I'm Iran and let's just say or if I'm an adversary that maybe isn't as technologically advanced as the United States, but with what we saw with the cartels and their weaponry that they have, I wouldn't be surprised, with some of it being U.S. military weaponry, I wouldn't be surprised that, they had weaponry of some foreign, governments had some older tech weapons of the United States. This guy worked with missiles and things. Why isn't he being like you would assume in a time of war, a guy that specialized in weaponry and stuff and missiles and things like that, and if you had government that possibly could have, some of our old tech and could utilize his assistance in making it work, why the hell aren't you like looking for this guy more harder? Because they're not. There's little law enforcement looking into him, into his disappearance. It's weird. There's no attention to it. Nothing.
Army
I
that
don't get
agrees.
it.
Army that agrees. Army that says 100% 3 times.
Yeah, like they're, to me, it's just dumbfounded that they're not looking at him. And I mean, I wonder if maybe perhaps the government was afraid he was going to say something to someone, because he disappears. Like his wife leaves, goes to a doctor's appointment. He stays back, she comes back within 50 minutes. He's apparently changed because they have no idea what he's wearing. There was a repairman there, so I'm assuming both of them saw what he was wearing before, but since they don't know what he's wearing now, I'm assuming that means that his clothes were left behind. So he also doesn't have his prescription glasses. He's left his phone behind and all his wearables, and has disappeared. And they have cameras on both ends of his street, and it doesn't capture anything.
Army that said the same time as you, no cams. Wow, that's weird.
Well, there is cameras, but they're in the end of the street.
Right, not working, I meant.
They're working, but they didn't capture anything.
So then where is he?
No idea. He goes out there without his glasses and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I would assume if the military was watching him and they had a worry of what he knew or whatever, they would have the capability of getting him out of there undetected.
Never know.
You know what I mean? I don't believe he was like abducted by UFOs or anything like that. But my concern is, why isn't the government more concerned about a missing general who specialized in weaponry, even if it was from 2013, when you know that a 2013 bomb is going to work just as good as it did 2013 as it is today. If you drop it somewhere, it's just going to be as fatal.
Right? A great point.
I mean, you if I was like Iran and I had a missile that, or missiles, I've acquired some that were developed in 2010, but I don't really know how to use it, or I'm struggling in getting it to be accurate. And I got this guy who's willing to talk to UFO guy over here about special projects. You don't think I'm going to go see if he's willing to talk to me for some money? And if he doesn't, you don't think that I'm going to be able to get him to talk? And why isn't the government freaking looking into it? That's just
they might already know where he's at. Is that what you mean?
I think that they may be the ones that are responsible for
it. That's what I mean. They already know what happened.
Yeah.
That could be. I mean, that is absolutely a possibility. It just doesn't make sense, though. How do you disappear?
Now, the only other thing that's weird is like the wife had only been gone for like 40 minutes, comes back, he's gone, doesn't know what he's missing. And then the clothing that she gave initially, the clothing, the boots, the shirts and stuff that said, oh, this stuff's missing, it must be what he's wearing, was stuff that was found in their secondary home in Pagosa Springs, but they hadn't been there recently. So that kind of worried me a little bit. I was like, man, why are you giving, I don't know. To a certain point, it almost sounds like he got caught in the shower,
What's his name again? I want to look into this.
William McCaslin, General William McCaslin. He's been missing for 3 weeks.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Army that says the disappearance of retired Major General Neil. Oh, is that who you're talking about? Neil McCaslin. Yep. Okay, that's so. I just wanted to see if that's it, so that I know what to Google afterwards. All right.
Yeah.
He says it's 24 hours before the start of Operation Epic Fury. What's Operation Epic Fury?
I don't know, but that may have been when they started the Iran stuff. But I don't know.
Army, what is it?
It is very suspicious. And again, he had knowledge of a lot of things, especially weapons and missiles. The war in Iran, yeah.
And I mean, so, it's pretty like thinking outside of the box, trying to get to him before somebody else can.
That, or see, to me, if somebody else did, I would if I would assume law enforcement's going to be like, or the military, the government's going to be on like, we gotta all hands on deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. They said it's the war. That's what the Operation Epic Fury is. It's the war.
Yeah.
That's
We'll see. We'll see. I got some thoughts on it. I got some thoughts. Hopefully it doesn't shut me down, but I got some thoughts.
I know, right? If we miss Daniel, you guys, we know what to look into.
Yeah. We when I was talking about it the other night with Elena Smith from Collective Crime Scene, we were like, none of us want to harm ourselves if anything happens.
Right? We like our life. Nobody here is trying to. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but we'll see. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Please hit the like and subscribe button.
Don't when will you be back? Fast. You didn't tell us. When will you be back again?
I'm gonna be back on Tuesday. I'm gonna be back unless something breaks tomorrow. Mondays I talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you're interested in football, I'm on a show called the Steelers Hangover. It's on a network called the Steel Curtain Network. It comes out at about 9 p.m. Eastern time. I appreciate it if you guys go and check me out. It'll be me, Shannon White, my buddy Tate. We talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And
where can we find it?
On Steel Curtain Network.
And where is that though? Like a lot of people are old like me. Like, is that something we Google? Is it something on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. You'll find us on YouTube. It's Steel Curtain Network. It's a YouTube channel. You go check me out there, and then I'll be back on Tuesday with something. We always go live about something. And what about yourself again?
I don't know, probably tomorrow. And I just don't know what it's going to be on yet. But look out for me tomorrow. Probably, 9:30ish is when I usually show up somewhere.
Nice. Well, don't jump off too quick there, Dr. Vona, when we end. I got something that I got to tell you. But everybody else, you have a good night. Thank you, and peace out.
Bye everyone.